Today on Retire with Purpose, 5 tips for teachers approaching retirement, why you might want to take Social Security early, and how you might be able to reduce the taxes due on your 401k or IRA.
Are you prepared to retire with purpose? To retire knowing your savings is invested to meet unavoidable needs and expenses.
It's not how much we make during the good times, it's how much we keep during those really bad times.
Certified financial planner Casey Weade is president of Howard Bailey, an advisory firm that believes successful retirement begins with a detailed financial plan personalized to help achieve your life's purpose.
Whatever risk you faced, we've got a plan.
The Howard Bailey team is committed to practical financial planning so you can enjoy family and the future without uncertainty or stress. Stay tuned and learn how you too can retire with purpose.
Welcome to the program. I'm Lee Kelso here with Casey Weade, certified financial planner and the president of Howard Bailey Financial. If there is a teacher in your life, get on the phone and let them know this program is all about them, at least the first segment, because we're talking about some tips for teachers. They have very unique retirement considerations, and that's what we're going to focus on today.
They do. I come from a family of teachers, especially on the Bailey side. My grandfather was in education for over 60 years. I've got a lot of uncles and aunts and cousins that are all in the world of education. And my mom was one of the best teachers in Indiana at one point. And she won awards, and my family had always really encouraged this, especially my grandfather. Get into education, and a lot of them really got into education because of being able to have those rewarding benefits, working with children, really making an impact in their lives. And they've always had fairly enviable benefits when it came to health care, pensions, 403Bs, retirement savings plans. However, there's been a lot of pressure put on these things over the years, and my grandfather's been a huge advocate of this, and I've heard him actually say, I don't think I would recommend young individuals get into a world of teaching today, because a lot of the funds that used to go to the public schools are being redirected to the private schools. Benefits are getting cut, and that's hurt teachers, especially as teachers are stepping into retirement over the last couple of years. Their pensions have been cut, their health care benefits have been cut. It's just not as attractive as it used to be, and quite frankly, it's fairly confusing for most teachers. I had to work with my mom, and we spent hours going through all the different options, all the different accounts that she had, and it can be very confusing. And because of the cut in benefits, I think there's never been a more important time for teachers to really understand what their retirement's going to look like and start to put together a strategy with a professional.
So Casey has put together 5 tips for teachers, and we're going to walk you through those today. And we're going to start with knowing your life expectancy. That's kind of a tough one, right?
Well, and it's a very important decision for teachers because they're still able to receive pensions, which there aren't a lot of individuals that are stepping into retirement receiving pensions, but teachers are. And this is an important consideration, because when they look at their pension options, that's one of the biggest decisions they'll make, which pension they're going to take, the single life option, the 50-50 option, the period certain option. There's all these different options they have to take, and it really comes down to life expectancy. It's a lot like your Social Security decision. When you make your Social Security decision, it depends how long you're going to live to tell you when you should actually take Social Security. And the same thing's true with your pension. When and how should you take your pension really comes down to what our life expectancy is. And I think you can use those online life expectancy calculators, take into consideration your family history. I would just be very cautious, because there's no perfect answer to how long we're going to live. Nobody knows what that is actually going to be, and an average has nothing to do with what it's actually going to be for you. So really take some time in making that determination and get pretty darn close, and that'll help you better make that decision.
Second tip is to be aware of both the power and the risks of consolidation. Now, what do you mean by that?
Well, we have to, when we first, I had a teacher that I worked with a couple of years ago that when she came in the office, her husband was kind of aggravated at her. He was visibly and vocally irritated with his spouse, blaming her for how confusing their retirement was, because they had so many different accounts. They had nearly a dozen accounts that she had picked up over the years, and this is what's happened with teachers, and it's not their fault. I had to defend her because it wasn't her fault. She had all these different providers. There's just been provider after provider when it comes to insurance, when it comes to brokerage houses, investment firms that come in and they've open up a new account and you end up with another one. They've got all these different accounts that they end up with as ASAs, these 403Bs with multiple providers. And it's just very confusing for retirees when they look at all these things and don't really know what's going on. And I think what's important about that is sitting down and, especially as you get closer to retirement, start to consolidate these things towards a plan. Because once we are able to take those things and consolidate them, now they could see what they actually had. They could see it very easily, what they had, and more importantly, what it was going to do for them as they stepped into retirement. This is going to provide my income. This is going to provide my inflation protection. This is going to be for healthcare expenses. We repurposed all those different accounts, and that creates really a sense of peace as you step into retirement, actually knowing what you have in the first place.
And knowing of your eligibility is also critical, and as you just heard, pretty difficult at times.
Yeah, and for teachers, most teachers know the rule of 85, and that's their pension eligibility, and that's really just taking your age plus your years of service. But there are other ways that you can qualify and invest for benefits, even though they might be reduced benefits. There are other ways. You don't have to have your 85 in order to get some benefits. You might be between 55 and 60 and have 15 years of service and qualify. You might be over the age of 65 and have 10 years of service and still qualify. So there's all these little quirks that we have to understand, and these are really important numbers because we might want to work an extra 6 months beyond what we thought we were going to retire in order to make sure we get full benefits.
Yeah, achieve that benchmark. So again, this comes back to it seems obvious, but it's very difficult, and that is know your options.
Yeah, and there are a lot of options, especially when it comes to that pension decision. I helped my mother with her pension decision when she retired. I've helped a lot of teachers with this decision. One of our largest demographics as a firm is working with teachers, and I think that comes kind of from our background and my family background. And it's confusing because we have this straight life, we have this 50-50 option, and we also have the option to roll our retirement accounts that we have through the school corporations typically into our pension and generate more guaranteed income during retirement. And these benefits used to be really nice. So we would roll a lot of our ASAs and these other retirement accounts into the plan to get a higher guaranteed income, because in some cases they were getting 8% cash flow. Great return of their money every single year by rolling over, if they needed guaranteed income, into that pension and really annuitizing some of these lump sum retirement accounts. And so we need to evaluate all those different options and also evaluate alternatives, because as we've seen, people live longer, interest rates come down, those benefits aren't as strong. You might be able to get more income from a private annuity.
So look to workshops. I know that they sponsor many of them. You suggest going to these workshops.
Yeah, I do. I've had teachers that have attended, and it's helpful to just understand what you're looking at and what you have and how to use it. And there's workshops all over the state of Indiana, and there's also webinars that you can attend online. These things are going on all year round, and you can go on INPRS and pick them up and actually see. You can sign up online. You can make sure you know where it's at. And there's probably one that's close to you, and it's very easy to do. And you can do that in a low pressure situation and get an unbiased opinion, because nobody's there to sell you anything.
Yeah. There's another opportunity to learn more about what's going on in your benefit world, and that is to sit down with a member of the Howard Bailey team. And the way you do that is to call before the end of the program into the number on your screen, and we'll be able to sit down with you and talk through a lot of these options. I think you just learned that Casey's firm is very familiar with how all the benefits come together for teachers and what it could mean for you. So I hope you will jump on the phone and call before the end of the program to sit down for a retirement review with a member of the Howard Bailey team, taking a look at all the options you just heard, as well as all the traditional options that all of us need to be concerned about: fees and taxes, risk in your portfolio. Do you have a provision for long-term care? And is there an opportunity for an income that you can't outlive? Those are all things we'll cover as we sit with you and guide you toward retiring with purpose. If you're on the phone calling us for the end of the program to make that appointment, sure hope you will. We're going to be back in just a second answering questions from viewers. Stay with us.
At Howard Bailey Financial, every dollar has a purpose. We call it the purpose-based retirement. A certified financial planner will help you decide what you need your retirement money to do for you. We put together a written plan that puts your dollars exactly where you want them to be. And we put every dollar to work to maximize your retirement efficiency. For a higher level of insight and care, choose the purpose-based retirement from Howard Bailey Financial. Call us now to set a complimentary consultation.
It's time for us to focus on you a little more closely and answer your questions. Let's get to Goshen and Ann. She's first up.
Casey, my husband and I are turning 62 this year. He thinks we should wait until 70 to take our Social Security, and I think we should get it when we can. What's your thoughts on this age-old debate?
Well, Ann, I think Social Security decisions are often made in a vacuum, and I think that's the biggest problem. And especially, I think this has kind of come out of all these Social Security calculators that are now available online to help you maximize your Social Security benefit, Social Security seminars that are going on out there at the local library to help you to pick which benefit you should really be taking. And they're looking at Social Security largely in a vacuum, saying, okay, to max out your benefit, this is when you need to take it. And these people will come into our office and say, you know, I want to take Social Security at 70, or I'm going to take Social Security at 67. They've got this form in front of them that was a printout from some machine that said this is when you should take Social Security to get the biggest benefit out of it, which was really just made on some assumptions. How long are we going to live, your inflation rate, your reinvestment rate, and quite often I've taken those folks and said, well, once we look at the big picture and we start plugging in the numbers, what we find is they should be filing for that benefit at 62 because looking at their entire net worth and their bottom line income, really it benefits them more to start taking that benefit at 62 rather than waiting to 70 and 75. So I think this decision needs to be made once you've taken into consideration more than just a Social Security benefit, your longevity. Start looking at the taxes you're going to have to pay. Start looking at what Medicare is going to look like. Take into consideration all these different things before you make that decision. And most often I say, take the benefit when you need the benefit. Take the benefit when you need the income. Spend those dollars that are over there rather than the dollars that are coming out of your portfolio. You already know you have this money. We already know the government doesn't have this money. Which one do you want to take from? And I think that's an easy way to start to understand this. And the biggest argument I think that people make is, well, I'm making 8% on my Social Security. I should wait till 70. I think you need to think about this as not an 8% return on your money. Because if you have, let's say you have a $10,000 benefit at 62. If you wait till 63, you've got $10,800. At face value, you go, I just got an 8% return on my money. However, you just missed out on $10,000 worth of income at age 62. So if you would have taken that benefit at 62, by the time you get to 63, you would have collected $20,000. Now you've collected $10,800. Was that really an 8% return on your investment? So I would just encourage you to dig in deep, start to look at more things than just that Social Security benefit, incorporate it as just one piece of the puzzle in this thing called a retirement plan.
Yeah, it's a big decision. Let's get to Janelle in Huntertown.
We've been with the same advisor for over 20 years, and he's done really well for us, but we want safety, and it just doesn't seem like he gets it. Why, and how do we make a change?
Well, Janelle, the thing is that some advisors have different specialties. Some are accumulation advisors, some are retirement specialists, and accumulation is helping people get to retirement. It's this focus on investments and growth at all costs, mutual funds, ETF stocks. We're just thinking about what can give us the biggest return on our investment so that someday we can retire. And then you get to retirement, somebody did a great job over the last 20 years helping you get there, and you say, now I want to start playing defense. You just told them to completely switch the game that they've been playing for you for the last 20 years. That can be a shock to the system and something that they're not used to. And now shifting over, you're going to be facing different risks. So why not work with a retirement specialist that's used to covering those specific risks and addressing things like long-term care and taxes during retirement, lifetime income strategies. These are the discussions I think we need to have. And once you've made that decision and shopped around a little bit, find somebody you really enjoy, like the person you're already working with that you have a great relationship with. Find somebody else you can have a great relationship with that has the right technical knowledge in order to help you get to and through retirement. Since somebody already helped you get to retirement, now they're going to help you get through retirement. And then you pick that person and think of this as a business decision. It's great that you have a wonderful relationship with the person you're already working with, but when you run a business and you have a bad employee, you have somebody that's not doing their part, that's not doing a good job, you don't just keep that person on because you've got a great relationship or you want to help their family. You make a business decision so that your business can be around for the rest of your lives and multiple generations. You think about your life savings as a business. And if you have to make a difficult decision to make sure that it's around for the rest of your life and multiple generations, you make that decision and make it based on the business of your life savings, not just the relationship.
Yeah, picking that coach is critical. Just do better than the Colts, maybe. Let's get to an email question from Robert up in Wolf Lake. My employer gives me a 15% discount for investing in company stock, but I'm concerned about the risk. Should I be buying in, and how much is too much?
Well, Robert, I think, again, this is kind of like that Social Security decision. Can't be made in a vacuum. A 15% discount's a pretty neat thing to buy into employer stock. And in most instances, you should take advantage of that because you're probably not working for a company that's in bad shape. However, you might be. And so first, let's really scrutinize the stock of the company. How healthy is it? Is this a good valuation? Should we be buying it in the first place? Because we can get a great deal and save 15%, but if it loses 30%, then I guess we didn't really get a great deal, right? And so we really want to scrutinize the company we're working with, the stock, before we start buying in. And I think it's important, no matter how much we know about a particular stock, a company, any type of investment, or business for that matter, we diversify and make sure that we don't take on too much risk in any individual position. And typically that number is never having more than 5 to 10% in any individual stock inside your portfolio. I think when it comes to employer stock, typically you have a greater relationship with the company. You know more about the inner workings of the company and how successful they're going to be. And maybe we can bump that up to 15% of your overall allocation and the contributions that you're making to that 401k. But even then, I've met individuals that said, I was working for a great company. I know that their earnings are wonderful. You know, Raytheon, I've seen this with Raytheon employees. They say, you know, I really know it's a good company, but all of a sudden it's down 5% or it's down 10%. You know, now it's headed in the wrong direction and it doesn't really make sense. The market doesn't always make sense, and the movements of stocks doesn't always make sense. And so this is why we diversify and don't put all our eggs in one basket.
Yeah, that's critically important, and you can't bring emotion to the table with this decision, right? Just because you like the employer and it's a great deal.
Yeah, and there's some great benefits to owning stock in your 401k when it comes to things like net unrealized appreciation that we're going to talk about here later in the show, where we can take advantage of some great tax benefits we have with employer stock. It's nice to have it, but again, we can't let the tax tail wag the dog or the discount wag the dog.
Well, if you're concerned about exactly what's in your portfolio and whether you have the right mix of stocks, maybe there's too much risk lurking there in the event of a big market turndown and it could hurt you so close to retirement, here's a chance for an independent review. You can call the number on your screen for the end of the program, and you can meet with a member of the Howard Bailey team for a confidential, complimentary retirement review, a chance to look through your portfolio for risk. We'll take a look for taxes and fees that you might be able to escape. Is there a way that you can have a long-term income that you cannot outlive? There probably is if you plan correctly for that, and we'll help you get there. And of course, there's always the question of long-term care. All things that should be cared for, that should be provisioned for in your retirement package. Are they? Do you know? Here's a good chance for you to find out. Call the number on your screen, make that appointment, and sit down with a member of the Howard Bailey team and set yourself on the course for retiring with purpose. Here is our question of the day. How will distributions be taxed from your IRA? What form of taxes will you pay? We'll have the answer when we come back.
At Howard Bailey Financial, every dollar has a purpose. We call it the purpose-based retirement. A certified financial planner will help you decide what you need your retirement money to do for you. We put together a written plan that puts your dollars exactly where you want them to be. And we put every dollar to work to maximize your retirement efficiency. For a higher level of insight and care, choose the purpose-based retirement from Howard Bailey Financial. Call us now to set a complimentary consultation.
Well, how'd you do with our question of the day? Here it is again. How will distributions be taxed from your IRA? Casey, what's the answer?
Well, sadly enough, Lee, the answer is A. It's ordinary income. So when you take distributions from your IRA, they're going to be taxed at your highest marginal federal tax rate, and they're also going to receive state tax at the same time, rather than receiving capital gains treatment. So that might be short-term capital gains, but really long-term capital gains is what receives preferential tax treatment. Something that's been held for more than 1 year ends up being taxed at 15%, could be taxed at 20%, could be taxed at 23.8%. For a lot of people, it's not going to be taxed at all. As long as we keep those capital gains in the 10-12% tax bracket, we're going to receive a 0% tax rate on our capital gains. So how do we shift that income from our IRA from being taxed at ordinary income to being taxed at long-term capital gains rates? I'm going to share with you a strategy that you can utilize before you roll those dollars out of your 401k into an IRA, and that's very important. This has to be done before you roll those dollars into an IRA, and you have to have employer stock inside of your 401k so that you can then take advantage of something called net unrealized appreciation, or NUA. So let's walk through a very easy to understand example using $100 per share holding of a stock inside of your 401k. You have a cost basis of $10 and appreciation of $90. So you can see this is a highly appreciated position. We see this quite often with national defense contractors and even technology firms that have had employees investing in their employer stock over the last 15 to 20 years. So we see this net unrealized appreciation, bringing the total value of the stock to $100, but we only paid $10 for that stock over time. So now let's say that we take that stock out of the 401k and roll it into a brokerage account. Now we're going to be taxed only on the $10. We're going to be taxed as ordinary income on the cost basis. However, we are not going to be taxed on the $90 in appreciation. If we just took that 401k out and took that distribution not in kind, but took it in cash, we would have had to pay ordinary income tax on the entire $100 of share value in that. However, let's move forward and say that we hold on to this position for the next year and 1 day. So we've already paid taxes on our cost basis. If we would have sold the stock, we would have been taxed at long-term capital gains rates on the appreciation as it was when it was inside of the 401k. We're going to be taxed on the dividends as the dividends are paid to us, and then any of the appreciation over and above what we paid for that stock and what the stock has grown to prior to being rolled out is going to be treated as capital gains as well. So what happens at death? And this is a common problem and common misunderstanding when people roll this stock out of their 401k into a brokerage account. They say, I'm going to take advantage of net unrealized appreciation. I won't have to pay taxes on the appreciation. I'll leave it behind to my heirs, and then they'll get a step up in basis, and I'm never taxed. Well, the IRS has already figured this out. They're a step ahead, as they usually are. So you've already been taxed on your cost basis, and on the date of death, you will not receive a step up in basis on the net unrealized appreciation. Your heirs will still pay long-term capital gains taxes on that NUA. However, the step up in basis will still be there, but it'll be for the appreciation that occurred after it was rolled out of the 401k. So let's walk through a little example of a case study of an individual that has $1 million of value of employer stock inside of their 401k that's highly appreciated. And this, we've seen this work with individuals that have as little as $10,000 and as much as millions of dollars in employer stock inside of their 401k. So the numbers really are irrelevant. We're trying to understand the concept here. If we would have rolled those dollars over to an IRA instead of electing net unrealized appreciation, we would have been taxed ultimately when those shares were sold and distributed to us via required minimum distributions or left to our heirs, and they took required distributions or took it in a lump sum at, say, 33% or $330,000 in taxes due on that $1 million. However, there were no dollars due when we actually rolled those stocks over in the first place, but ultimately taxes were due upon distribution. Instead, we could have went ahead and paid our taxes today, taking that $1 million in kind and paid taxes on the cost basis of $49,500, ordinary income tax, and 15% in tax when we actually sold the stock with that capital appreciation, bringing our total tax paid to $177,000. So if we compare those two side by side, if we just rolled over those dollars and deferred those taxes into the future, we would have ended up paying $330,000 in taxes versus doing the NUA option, paying $177,000 in taxes, saving $153,000 by knowing our tax laws and knowing the rules and doing it correctly. So how do you qualify for this? Well, one, we can qualify by we have to roll over the entire account. We can't leave anything behind. So if you want to roll over the actual holdings, the actual stock, you have to pull those out and you have to roll out all the other dollars that you have. Those dollars can still be rolled over to a traditional IRA and deferred into the future outside of the employer stock. It also has to qualify as a distribution event. So being age 59 and a half or retired, for instance, and it has to be distribution in kind. We can't sell the stock and then take the distribution. We have to sell the stock after the distribution's been taken. So when does this actually make sense? Well, it only makes sense if we have a highly appreciated position inside of our 401k in the first place, and it depends on the current valuation. Because if we take a distribution, then it loses value dramatically. It may even lose value below our original cost basis. Then we ended up paying taxes on dollars we no longer have. So we want to know which direction that stock might head into the future, and also understand which way tax rates are going to go in the future. If you think you're going to be in a lower tax rate environment in the future than you are today, then maybe NUA isn't the right option for you. If you think you're going to be in a higher tax bracket, or your heirs might be in a higher tax bracket at some point in the future, then NUA might be an absolutely fantastic option. You just want to sit down, evaluate whether this makes sense for you, and don't look at this in a vacuum. Take into consideration all the other elements of your retirement plan, your investment plan, your taxes, your health care strategy, even your health care benefits from Medicare, and make sure you're making the very best decision for yourself moving forward. You need to know all of your options as you step into retirement.
You know, I don't know what you folks heard there, but what I heard is help. I need some professional assistance making that decision.
Exactly, and we need to integrate our tax planning with our investment planning, because it's not how much you make, it's about how much you keep.
Yeah, with that big tax savings, that was 40% or something like that?
It's a huge number, $153,000. You know, that's saved them about half off what they would have paid if they didn't understand their tax law. Pretty
Dramatic savings, and a good reason to work with a professional who really understands how you play this game, and that's what you get if you're one of the people who call the number on your screen right now to sit down and meet with a Howard Bailey advisor. It's a complimentary retirement review where we'll take a look at issues like this to find out, is there an opportunity where you can save up to 40% on taxes? What about long-term care, a lifetime income that you can't outlive? What about risk in your portfolio, fees and expenses maybe you could escape? All things we'll review as part of this complimentary retirement review that will put you down the path toward retiring with purpose. So call the number on your screen and make that appointment. It is worth the time. All right, that's all the time we have. We will see you next week. Take care.